Well, thank you all for being on. There's a lot of folks on the call, and we want to be good stewards of your time. And let's get started with a word of prayer and just ask the Lord to be with us. There's a lot of prayer needs. We'll be praying at 7:14 tonight. We're going to have a great time of prayer at 7:14 this evening with our district leadership team. It's going to be the 30th day of 30 days of fasting and prayer, and that's through the district Facebook page at West Florida District Assemblies of God Facebook page. So just go there and join us tonight for extended time of prayer. It's going to be a wonderful conclusion. We're excited about that. And we'll be concluding the 30 days of fasting and prayer with that prayer time tonight at 7:14. And we'll be talking there about what we're going to do as we move forward. We're going to do on the 7th and 14th of every month. We're going to keep 7:14 prayer moving and going. And also then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights, we've got 3 great things. We'll talk about those a little bit later in the call. Just to remind you about come together Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night. 3 wonderful times together coming up. But tonight's the last one of the just 7:14 prayer meetings that we've been holding in this 30-day segment. So that's going to be good. But we'll be finished here in plenty of time to do that. And Greasy Reese's got a 6 o'clock concert on tonight, I think, or 6:30 maybe it is, whatever it is, on Reese's Facebook page. I'm sure that's going to be really exciting. So let's jump in and we'll go from here. Let's just open with prayer tonight and ask the Lord to minister to all of the needs that are represented. I'm sure there are many across this call, but we're going to believe God to minister. Father, we love you. Thank you for your grace and your mercy. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings of God. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your church, and particularly in leadership as ministers across this great fellowship. We praise you for that. We ask now that you would bless our time together and bless what we are engaged in, Lord. Bless what we are trying to do. Give us wisdom, give us guidance, give us the direction of the Holy Ghost, and we'll thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Well, I want to really thank you for taking the time to join in with us tonight. I know your time is very, very valuable, and we want to be good stewards of that to the best of our ability. I've made myself some notes, so maybe we can keep up a little bit better. First thing I want to do tonight, though, is just brag on you. You've done a phenomenal job leading these last couple of months through some very, very difficult times. Things we've never been confronted with before, particularly the last 6 weeks have been really excruciatingly challenging for all of us. And especially for you, boots on the ground at the local church level, trying to keep ministry going, trying to abide by all the regulations, and trying to keep everybody well and believe God for healing for those that are sick. And so it's been a crazy time. You've been dealing with people that have been pushing you to let's get back to church. You've been dealing with other people that are scared to death to come back to church. You've got all of these schools of thought. We've got people that believe this is all a big scam, that there's nothing to it, that there's really no sickness. Then you've got others that are, again, scared to death that they're going to catch something if they step outside. I passed a lady in a vehicle this week, nobody in the vehicle but her, and she had her mask on, driving down the road with all 4 windows up in her car and her mask on in there. And I'm like, sister, you can take that off, I think, because there's nobody there but you. But people are scared. There's a lot of uncertainty, and you've been dealing with all of that at the grassroots, boots on the ground level. And I just appreciate you. Thank you so very, very much for what you do and for the way that you serve. You are excellent and wonderful in that, and we are so proud of you, and thank the Lord for you. By the way, the call is being recorded, just so you know, and it will be placed on our website and Facebook page, so ministers who couldn't be on right now can catch it a little bit later. So just know that. If you want to say anything, just understand it will be repeated later. And you've already got more than 100 sets of ears listening already. So just know that before you say anything tonight. The call is being recorded for quality purposes, but we'll use it to learn from maybe. So again, we appreciate you. We're proud of you. We know it's been challenging times. It's been challenging times for our team. Appreciate all of them. They're doing a great job. So when we actually sitting at the end of last week, I felt like that we were going to get some clear direction from the governor And it was my plans then this week to produce, we have already a shell of this, and we have it kind of sitting in the wings, ready for the details to be put together, of a 3-phase relaunch plan that would work for any church, that could be adapted for various church sizes, and just lay out the base criteria for 3 phases of relaunch, as that would align itself with the state's regulations and recommendations that they would hand down. Well, we were, first of all, I want you to know I'm not disappointed in our governor. I'm not upset with the governor. I'm not frustrated. My daddy had an old saying, I wouldn't be in his shoes for his socks. It's a very difficult place that man is walking. We are blessed in the state of Florida to have a conservative Republican governor. I don't want to get on a political soapbox. That's not the purpose of this, but it is the truth. We have a conservative Republican governor. Now, has he done some things that somebody else would have probably done differently and Mike could have done better? Well, of course he has. He's human. He's not going to please everybody. But he's in a position that's a lot like the positions that you and I are in our churches, where we have a group of senior adults that kind of like things one way, and you got a group of young adults that like things another way, and you got people in the middle that kind of can go either direction. Well, our governor our governor governs a very diverse state. You have South Florida, particularly on any day, but particularly now with COVID-19, South Florida is very much more impacted than West Florida is. And he realizes that. And he realizes that, you know, I've heard him make the statement, he is trying to govern 5 states in one. So that's kind of how you feel pastoring your church. So I think that if anyone should have sympathy and empathy and support for our governor doing the very best that he can possibly do, it should be those of us who try to lead in very diverse situations. And if you pastor a church today, most likely you're leading in a very diverse situation where you have all kinds of schools of thought and different people trying to tell you what to do. So he surrounded himself with a task force and came out of that with his phased plan. So he says that we will officially Monday move into phase 1. So we're not even in phase 1 yet. We're still just under the orders that he has put out previously. And so nothing changes in Florida until Monday. And then on Monday, we will officially enter phase 1, which he has not actually put a timeline or end date on. He did say he is hoping it will be weeks and not months. That is his plan, is for this to be for a few weeks that we will be under his phase 1 guidelines. The only thing that I have, again, I'm going to use the word frustrated, but it's not at the governor. It's just, you know, I could imagine yesterday as I watched the press conference that we'd hoped was going to be Monday, that actually didn't happen until yesterday afternoon at 4. I could only imagine how every hairdresser, every barber, every plumber, every restaurant owner, everybody out there, whatever community they represented or came from, that's what they were waiting to hear him say something about. They all wanted him to address their world. Well, I was sitting here doing the same thing. I wanted him to address churches. And he did. And he did what I've called a drive-by shooting again, where he just simply very quickly made a reference to churches and said, I've never closed churches in the state of Florida. That's not what we do. He then said, we have relied on them to voluntarily make sure that they held the standards necessary for safety, or whatever he went on to say. And then he left the subject and went on to talk about nursing homes and testings and all the other things that are very important to him that he had to address. I understand that. I know he couldn't take 30 minutes to talk to us about how to relaunch our churches. However, I have compared other governors, Texas, Alabama, and some others, that when they rolled their phase 1 plan out, they had a segment in it that directly was related to churches. And it defined exactly what the expectations was for churches. The expectations were for churches. We don't have that. And because of that, I don't have for you today what I hoped I would have for you. So we began immediately after the press conference yesterday reaching out. I've sent numerous emails, but let me hone in on one. I sent an email to Brad Drake, who is state representative for our area here. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for some time. And I say a friend, a distant, not we don't have coffee every day or anything like that, but I know Brad and he knows who I am from when I pastored at Carmel. So I sent him an email last night. He graciously responded early this morning to my email. I simply asked this. I said, I would like, and this is what I've asked all the way up the chain to the governor's office. And we have received a response from the governor's office, his liaison that deals with faith and not-for-profit communities. And we received a response from them this afternoon, thanking us for our inquiry, stating that others were inquiring the same and that they were working on specific guidelines for churches and they would be getting those to us as soon as possible. Brad Drake said to me in his email response, which was very gracious, he stated that well, let me tell you what I asked them. I asked them this. I said, first of all, we want to comply. We want to be in compliance. We're not rebels. We believe that the governor's doing a great job. We're praying for all of them. We're not complaining, but we don't really know what he expects out of us at this point. So we have asked the governor's office all the way down to just tell us, which way is this? There's three possible scenarios based on his plan. Where do churches fit? First of all, are churches like restaurants? Can we now reopen at 25% capacity of our indoor seating capacity if you can put 25% of your indoor seating capacity in 6-foot sections and keep everybody on the social distancing, and you provide hand sanitizer and masks are optional. I keep hearing that. Some places I keep reading though where if you are having very many people, they do want you to do temperature checks. But just tell us, what are we? Are we a restaurant? Are we like a restaurant? We appreciate the fact you haven't closed churches because he doesn't have the constitutional right to do that. He's made that very clear. But how do you want us to respond? Do you want us to respond like restaurants and other places that he's going to allow to open, where we can resume at 25% of our capacity in our buildings, and that we could have outside meetings that have more people there, but still you've got to use social distancing? Or do we fall under the category of social gatherings? Because in his plan, phase 1 plan, social gatherings are still limited to no more than 10 people, and you have to have social distancing at them. Large gatherings are basically prohibited. And what is a large gathering? Where's the line? What terms are one thing, but definitions are another. So are we like restaurants? Can we reopen our churches at 25% capacities? Are we like social gatherings or large gatherings, and we have to stay under 10 people or less, which is going to keep us right where we are right now? Or number 3 is, do you see churches as something totally different and you have a different set of criteria for them, or are you just releasing them to do whatever they feel like is safe? Well, I don't think the last one is the intent. The same thing happened when he released his initial restrictions that he placed out when he said that we were essential in that part of his order. When he said that, this same confusion arose. I was invited to a phone conference that had the Surgeon General of the state of Florida and a Deputy Director for Florida Department of Health. Many of you have already heard me say this. They in turn said, here's what the governor meant. The governor meant he did not have the constitutional authority to close a church. He was referencing some of the more, this was not said on the call, but we know this is what was happening. He was referencing some of the more heavy-handed response in some of the Democratic counties and liberal counties further down the state, where they had threatened pastors, if you meet, we will pull your 501c3, we'll close your church forever, you'll never ever meet. The governor was countering that and trying to swing the pendulum back. So he said, we don't close churches. We can't close churches. That's so right. And thank God he understands that, because I've just gotten off of a long Zoom conference with all the superintendents across the nation. And there's some governors across certain states that don't see it that way and would very liberal and would love to close churches. That is not where we are in Florida. So when they came back and clarified that, they said, well, he means you got to stay with the CDC guidelines, no more than 10. But you're essential, so you can go to your offices if you need to. You can, what we said to our churches, if you'll remember, you can meet and do your online streaming and or filming as long as there's no more than 10, and you can have outside drive-in services. We laid all that out a couple of weeks ago. We've been operating under that. So now what his liaison to faith-based communities said to us today in an email that I got a while ago, about 2 hours ago from them. They hear our request. Many people are asking it. And now they are going to come back and clarify the governor's expectations for churches and religious groups meeting. So that's going to come. We will get it eventually, and we are on their email list to get it just as soon as they send it out. That doesn't help us much sitting here on Thursday afternoon wondering what we're going to tell people Sunday about the next Sunday. So our plan was to come to you today and have already emailed to you, which we haven't. Our plan was that we would have already emailed to you a very succinct and easy to follow 3-step process, 3 phases with some projected dates of how long we felt like we were going to be in each stage or phase, and give you something to begin to work with to put in your people on a chart and on a course towards something. That's not going to happen right now, okay? We don't have the information to do it. We don't know. Now, we've got some great guidelines, and I will most likely go ahead and email to you either tonight or tomorrow. I'll do another mass email and put it out there on all of our other platforms, put it in the website and put it on Facebook and everything else. Some criteria that you need to be thinking about, because here's the thing, my friends. Let me be as transparent with you as I can this afternoon. I'm going to tell you in a minute what guidelines have been set for district council affiliated churches, because the DCA church is our direct responsibility. I am, by virtue of my office, the chairman of the board of those churches, and the buck stops here. So we are dealing with DCA churches using our executive presbytery to help us set these parameters as we have in the past. And we've had an EP meeting today. And I'm telling you that from my personal perspective, we're charting the course for DCA churches, and I'm doing with the DCA churches just what I think I know I would do if I was pastoring today, okay? So if anybody wants to know what my gut feeling is on what we ought to do, not as an official statement from the district superintendent, but if you just want to know my gut, follow what I'm recommending for DCA churches, because that's where the buck stops with me. And the EPs, I'm working with them, obviously. I'm not making this just about me, but the EPs, we've worked together as a team, and our team, and we've laid these regulations out. That's what I would do if I was pastoring a church of 500 today. But here's the deal. The way our fellowship is set up is beautiful, and we never want to jeopardize that or cross the line. We know our place. Our place is to encourage you, resource you, and equip you. In this situation, I think it's our place to make recommendations to you and put as much information in your hands and head as we possibly can for you to make right decisions for general council affiliated churches. We must make the decisions for the district council affiliated churches. That is our responsibility by the way that we are set up and governed in our district. But for you as general council affiliated churches, it rests in your hands. Now, you've got to figure all of that out. We don't want to just say, go do whatever you want to do. That doesn't matter. That's not what we're saying, because we're all in this together to a great degree. And yet we're all in it singularly as well, because every church in this district, for the most part, will look differently in its relaunch. Why? Because every church is different. A church with 30 people in it on a Sunday morning is going to relaunch very differently than a church of 250 people or a church of 800 people. There's no way around that. This is going to look very different. And it's just like what's happening on the national level. While to start with, there could kind of be some blanket instructions for every state, everybody in the United States is going to live by this. Now the president has wisely had to turn this to the governors to start helping to tweak this thing out and figure it out. And now in some states, you've got county governments suing state governments because the county government wants to do different than what the state wants to do. I mean, it's crazy out there what's happening with this trickle down. But as far as we're concerned as a fellowship, what we will do is continue to give you as much information and recommendations as we can. We will set the criteria for the DCA churches, and we will just give you as much stuff as we can to help you make wise choices. I said to the EPs today, and we stand firmly on this, we will not judge any pastor or any church based on how they do this process unless they just do something stupid. Can I be really honest, okay? Is that being too candid? Now, if you do something really stupid, I'm probably going to pick the phone up and call you and say, hey, not even as your district superintendent, but as your friend, that was stupid. Don't do that. Whatever you think, I don't want anybody to do that. I love you too much to let you, if I think you're going to fall off a cliff, I'm going to tell you I think you're going to fall off a cliff. But when it comes to the final decisions of exactly how all of this lays out, in the end, it rests with the General Council affiliated church, its pastor and its leadership to make the final determinations of what they are comfortable doing or not doing. But there's so much to be considered in that. So I want to give you a few things that I think, a few questions you need to ask yourself about relaunching. Now, first of all, let me pause for a moment and tell you what the Executive Presbytery determined today for District Council affiliated churches. We determined today that we will begin a process of 2-week increments and that we will be reevaluating this situation every 2 weeks, and we will get to every DCA pastor the progress or lack thereof or whatever it is of this situation on Friday prior to Sunday, so they can announce on that Sunday what it will look like the next Sunday. Does that make sense? So for instance, let me give you this one. It's real easy to do it this way, okay? When you look at it for right now, for what it is, the next 2 Sundays after the governor's new order goes into place, which is the 4th, so we're talking about the 10th and the 17th. First of all, nothing should be changing in any church right now this Sunday, all right? GCA or DCA, this Sunday, stay with what you've been doing. The governor has not changed anything until Monday, okay? So there's not even a possible loophole till Monday beyond where we currently are, okay? So for DCA churches, for the following 2 Sundays then, 10 and 17, there will still be no in-person services. We're staying with exactly what we've been with. We're not changing anything. And for at least 2 more Sundays, so it's 3 Sundays total from now. This coming Sunday, which was already a given because his order doesn't change until the 4th. And then the next 2 Sundays, DCA churches, we're staying with either online or drive-in according to the criteria that we've set that's on the website, okay? So that's where we are. It's just too uncertain. It's still too fluid. And another factor in that is that some of our areas in the Panhandle, while many have been very slightly impacted by this, some areas are just beginning to see a spike. And we're a little concerned about that. And we want to give it a couple more weeks in our DCA churches. We love our people. We love you as pastors. We love the reputation we have in our communities too much to jeopardize that, to jumpstart something too soon. So for 2 more weeks, we're going to abide by the same thing that we've been abiding by with our DCA churches. So really 3, counting this Sunday. But into phase 1, 2 weeks. Then we will reassess this as it goes along and we read all the information that's coming to us. We will reassess that as we go along step by step, okay? So we'll get everybody plenty of time to be able to make the shift and the adjustment. Now, so I think, Craig, is that some pertinent information that you're sending me that we need to look at? Okay, so tell me, all right, I'm looking at it right here. hang on just a moment. I think this is important enough to look at, okay? Okay. So this is coming from the Florida Department of Health related to the governor's, I hate doing stuff like this on the fly, but it is something that's just come out. May churches, synagogues, or other houses of worship hold services? The immediate answer is yes. But the governor's executive order 20-91 identified attending religious services at churches, synagogues, and places of worship as open activity. While that order did not place restrictions directly on any building or venue, many local orders have done so, and any building or venue that is open should continue to follow appropriate social distancing and sanitation procedures. Okay, so that's pretty well what we see, kind of what we thought. He's not saying you cannot meet. He's not putting numbers or restrictions, but you may have them in your county. You might have them if you're in a city. They may have them in place. You got to find out about that. We don't know every county in the district. We don't know every city and municipality. You've got to find that out. Are there additional restrictions in your area? You'd have to know that. And then here's the big piece. You have to follow all social distancing guidelines and criteria that's still in place. So if you're going to meet, you still have to keep people 6 feet apart unless they're in the same household. You have to sanitize that building, and that's not vacuum the floor. That is having a true hospital grade sanitizing spray that you spray that building down with, that classroom, after it's used. And they even recommend during use, if your bathrooms are open, that you have an attendant in there spraying it after, people come and go in there at least every 15 minutes. Every hard surface should be cleaned. So there's a lot of guidelines. We'll try to get some more clarity on all of that as we go along. They're rolling it out, and I think they realize that they've got to say a little bit more about it than what they've said, and I expect that they will. But for you as a pastor, as you're making these decisions and trying to figure this out, let me just give you a couple of things that I think would help you, okay? I think this will, well, it's all so foggy and unclear, but ask yourself, I think the first thing that you got to ask yourself is absolutely necessary that we begin gathering together immediately, okay? And I know I'm going to sound a little bit like the devil's advocate here almost, and that I'm against gathering together. Nobody in this world loves gathering together any more than I do, okay? Nobody would rather know that Sunday morning we could all get up and go to church like we always have. But I think we have to be very real about this. So I think the first question you got to ask yourself, is it necessary? Would we be, is my church going to be non-existent in 7 or 14 more days? Or is it possible that it could last another 2 weeks and give us time to do this really right? I think you got to ask yourself that question. Is it, again, and we would be talking about the 10th now, not the 3rd, because his order doesn't go into effect until the 4th. So is it imperative that we do that? You're coming up on Mother's Day. Do we want Mother's Day to be the day? And I've heard people say, what a great day. That'd be a great idea. I thought we'd have Mother's Day. So we have all the families back together in church. Really? Well, you probably should not have nursery, and you should not have children's church. And you're going to have all these restrictions and all this stuff in place. And that's what you're going to, some mothers would probably rather just stay home if you're not going to have children's church and nursery, would be my humble opinion. But I don't know that, okay? So those are things you got to consider. So is it absolutely imperative and necessary that we immediately open back up? I know we all feel it is. And I know we all feel the press to do it. I mean, we all do. We all feel this urgency. We got to get everybody back in the building together. But we have to ask ourselves that. So the second thing is this that you need to ask yourself. Do we have a plan Do we have a relaunch plan for our church? How are we going to do it? If you're like us, it's been hard to do that because you haven't known what the governor's regulations and restrictions are going to be. But, you know, if you're going to go down the 25% line, or if you're going to say, you know what, he didn't put a number on it, so we're just going to observe 6 foot, and we're going to do the 6 foot thing. Whatever you decide, whichever line of thought you start going down, you've got to have a plan. Listen, Pastor, you're going to have to sit down with your leaders virtually or somehow, or a broomstick apart, or however you want to do it. You're going to have to sit down with your leaders and talk about, how are we coming back? Because you're not coming back just like you left. And again, I don't want to be preachy, and I'm not trying to be the schoolmaster here. I'm not trying to be hard. I want you to understand that, because this is what I'm hearing from my counterparts and others. Many people have the misconception, as soon as we get some green light, we're going to go back to church and everything's going to be just like it always was. Well, it's not. For a while to come, I can tell you. And so, do you have a plan? Do you have a specific step-by-step plan? What are you going to do with people? Do you understand sanitizing that building? Do you have teams that are willing to do that? Is that going to all be on you and your spouse? Are you going to have to suit up, glove up, and mask up and spray that building every time after you meet? What's that going to create for you? But you've got to have a plan. You got to have that plan laid out. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we expect of people when they come. Because at best, to get people to comply with expectations, they have to know them. And in our cases, they need to know them in advance. People are going to need to know what you expect them to do whenever they get there. They're going to have to know all of that before they get there, and you start trying to tell them on the fly. So you're going to have to produce this and get it out to your church. When we return, families would be allowed to sit together. We'll use every other pew. We're taking out every other row of our chairs. Whatever it is that your plan is, there'll be no nursery, there'll be no children's church. We'll provide family-friendly services. And we've got a list of this. We'll send it all out to you to start kind of thinking about what you need to think about when you are relaunching. So you need a plan. You're going to have to get some kind of plan. So you got to ask yourself, is it necessary? Absolutely. Do we need to do this right now? If so, do we have a plan to do it? Number 3, can we effectively implement the plan? Walmart's got a plan. And I've been to Walmart, and it's chaos. And those little green arrows on the floor, and those little red stop signs, and all those signs everywhere that says, and you got to have signs in your building when you reopen, observe social distancing, 6 feet apart, all that stuff. They got them all over Walmart, and people are walking all over each other, and one person starts down the wrong aisle, and some little old lady that's been shut up in her house for 6 weeks, and she's got her mask on, and she's scared to death to be at Walmart, and here somebody comes walking the wrong way down the aisle. I saw it the other day, and she she came unglued on them. You can't come down here. Go the other way. You're walking, and just chaos. So can you implement your plan? Walmart's got a plan. They're trying, but they're having trouble implementing it. But you may feel comfortable and confident that you've got enough team that you can put together, hospitality, greeters, your staff, whatever, your board, your leadership, that will know what to do and will direct people when they get there. But here's the thing that I think is a little bit interesting about that. Again, I'm not trying to tell you not to do it. I just want you to think it through. I want you to be able to think it through wisely. Can you effectively implement your relaunch plan? Because here's the thing, people do what they naturally do. When you go to Walmart, my thing at Walmart is I have all my things on my phone that I'm going to get, and I take them off one at a time, and I go wherever that is on that aisle, and I turn and I go to the next one. I don't go up and down every aisle. So now when I'm at Walmart, I don't think about, I got to go up and down every aisle. I got to go only one way. And that's what people are doing. You know what people are going to do when they get back to that familiar place called church? They're going to do what they've always done. They're going to walk up to each other. I went to the Piggly Wiggly a while ago in Bonifay to pick up some fruit, and a lady comes out of the grocery store, and she used to go to our church. She saw me. She made a beeline for me with her buggy and reached out and grabbed me and went to hugging me. Well, what do? I had to hug the lady. I don't know where she's been. I don't know who she's been around. I don't know anything about her. And I got a big old hug, and I gave her a little hug back. She don't know where I've been, but that's naturally what we do. I turned around, here comes two brothers that I knew really well. They came up, oh man, I want to hug your neck. And it's just a big ordeal there. Well, we didn't, but anyway, it's just very uncomfortable because we're creatures of habit. Our church people are creatures of habit. They're going to want to do what they've always done before. They're going to want you to come down and anoint them with oil and pray for them. They're going to want people to gather around them, lay hands on them. You know, CDC guidelines would not allow for that right now. So how are you going to handle all of that? How are you going to make all of that work? And because people are just going to do what they're going to do. So that's the next thing that I want you to consider is the fourth thing. Are you ready to deal with any issues that might arise when you implement your relaunch plan? So, well, I've always sat on the third pew right there. Why is my pew? Why didn't you close pews 1 and 2? Why did you close pews 3 and 4? You know, maybe nobody's going to care, but I've been around Pentecostal folks long enough to know somebody's going to care where they sit. Okay, they care now, and they'll care then. So, what's that going to look like? What do you do with kids in the service? Most of our churches haven't had children in their services live for regular services for years and years, decades now. We've taken them to children's church and nursery and children's church and everything else. They hadn't ever sat through a Sunday morning church service. What's that going to look like? What kind of stress is that going to add that you need to be prepared for? So that's my fourth question to you, is simply, are you ready to deal with any issues that are going to arise? That's what we said about the drive-in services. They're wonderful. They're beautiful. But what you going to do when Bubba gets out of his pickup truck halfway through your message and decides to go over and see Aunt Bernice that he hadn't seen in 6 weeks? Are you going to stop preaching and holler at him, or have you got a plan? You know, you just got to think like that as a leader. You got to be out there a little bit. Are you ready to deal with anything that arises when you implement your plan? And so I think this is another great question to ask, but it's not a question you should ask yourself. I think it's a question you should ask your people. What are your expectations of us as a church for when we begin to meet again? What would make you comfortable enough to come back to church? Because I will make another hard statement, okay? And I'm sorry, we are recording all this, so it'll always forever be used against me in the court of public opinion anyway. But I'm afraid some of us, our feelings may be hurt when we start back, because the doors may not be beat down and the crowds may not overflow our buildings. People are, number one, scared. And then number two, remember, they've already been reprogrammed somewhat to the digital church service. And some of that we're going to have to overcome and encourage people back into the house of God. So I think I would want to know as a pastor, what do we need to do here at our church to make you feel comfortable bringing your family back to church services? And there is a great survey available on our website that will help you with that. It's under the Relaunching Your Church Kit, not the one from the General Council, but it's the one from the Rocky Mountain Network. You go into the website under COVID-19 resources, and the Rocky Mountain Network piece, Mark, help me, brother. I can't remember the title of it. I thought I knew it, but maybe it's just Relaunching Your Church, or I'm sorry. Say again.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain survey.
The Rocky Mountain piece, yeah.
I'd have to look it up. I can get it for you.
Okay, it's in their whole piece that's on our website, though. It's in our COVID-19 resources, but it came from the Rocky Mountain Network. So Mark will, but we can, there's a great survey there. You can send out to your people and ask them, what would it take? What, ask how they're doing and some expectations and that kind of stuff. So, or create one of your own. So I think that's another question that's got to be asked, but it's asked of your people and not of you. So let me see here. Let me get my brain wrapped around where we are. There's a lot of scripture that's come to my mind today. I confess some stuff for the EPs. I don't know that I want to confess it to everybody, but I asked the Lord this morning some hard questions about my own process in this, because I just felt very disappointed when I couldn't bring to you a very clear-cut, 3-phase, here's what here's a good plan to follow, Pastor. This is going to help you right here. It's going to take a lot of load off of you. And we just couldn't do it after we listened to the governor. We didn't have the material to create it. And I felt pretty, felt a little bit like we might have failed you somewhat in that, because I felt like it's our place not to tell you what to do, but to encourage you, resource you, and equip you. And I felt like many of you are looking to the district team to offer you some leadership. And I don't know that we're going to answer all those questions today. And so we scheduled a Zoom meeting for this afternoon to answer questions that we don't have the answers to. So I'm not real happy about that as a leader. So early this morning, I was doing a lot of pondering of my own thoughts about that. I thought, well, why am I so frustrated about it? Why is it kind of messing me up a little bit? And me and the Lord talked about it a little bit. And I said, well, is part of it my own personal ego? Is it just that, I like people saying, oh man, you gave me something great, Pastor, you helped me, am I feeding off of that? And, I don't know. I told the EPs I wasn't going to be this honest in public, and here I go. But I just had an honest conversation with the Lord, because I was really deflated. I was just really feeling kind of like we had failed in this. And I really feel like the Lord came back around and just, let me know that all leaders want to serve the people that they lead, if they're shepherds, and that's just our heart, is to serve you. And I just feel bad that we don't have something really clear to give you, and that we still are leaving some gray area. It's not gray area to me with the DCA churches. We're good there. I feel very comfortable with the decision that we've made there. And for DCA pastors, you ought to feel good about that, because you don't have to make any major decisions in the next couple of weeks or start figuring anything else out either. Just let's breathe a little while longer. For our GCA churches, my heart goes out to those pastors, because people in your pews are interpreting what they're hearing on the media and from the governor and different things, different ways. And sometimes if we can give you something concrete, it gives you, hey, throw us under the bus if you have to, let us be the fall guy. That's what I'd much rather be than you have to be that. And I just don't know that we actually have that concrete tool to give you right now. The only thing I can say that is, if you are leaning more toward not reopening right now and giving yourself a couple more weeks, that you could say that the district has decided for district council affiliated churches they won't, and you could say, I'm kind of taking my lead from that. If that's where you are, you may be on the other end of the spectrum saying, my church doesn't want to open and I do. Well, I don't know how to help you there. Okay. But just remember, it's going to be about the same thing as preaching to a phone or to a camera if you only got 5 people that show up to church when you relaunch, because you launched sooner than what they wanted to. Okay. And you can lose some credibility as a leader. So be very careful. I believe we should make people know that we care about them, their safety, their family safety, their health, the health and safety of our community, that's a primary concern of ours. I've said it from the time we started this. Don't lead with money matters. Don't lead with money matters. I've always seen that money follows the presence and will of God. We're going to get this tithe money made back up. We're going to make it. God's going to help us. We're not going under financially. I just cannot believe that God's going to let that happen. I didn't say we wouldn't have some tough times, but we're not going under. And so we don't want to say, well, we need to get back together so we can take up them offerings. What a horrible picture to put into people's mind, that's what's driving a decision. So don't let it drive the decision. If you're struggling financially, the district presbytery has appropriated some funds for us to be able to help you as a church. And even personally, if you're going through some very difficult personal times, please contact us. We'll confidentially deal with that and help you. We don't want you to struggle. We want you to succeed. We want you out from under this pressure. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do. So I'm going to go down. Craig, are you monitoring the chat line? And so maybe you can tell us if there are some questions that may be coming up on the chat line. If you've got questions, if you'll put them in or wave at us or something, we'll unmute you. But we can't see everybody at one time, because there's so many. I'm looking at 50 or so of you at a time, but there's multiple screens, so I can't see all of you right now, okay? But I will say this, that for our larger churches, and when I say larger in West Florida, we don't have a lot of large churches, but for any church that has more than 150 to 200 people, anything above that, you're going to have to be the most creative, I think, as we walk along through this. and trying to figure out what is the guidelines and how you're going to ramp that back up. I do know I've heard from some pastors even today that they're not rushing this, that they're looking at some potential restarts in June and hoping to be in full operation maybe again by August. We were on a conference call today with Florida Family, which is mostly Baptist, but a lot of good input, and the larger church pastors there and the others that were on that call that were the presenters. They're talking, well on through the summer. One guy in Orlando said, we follow the theme parks. When they reopen the theme parks, we'll know we can reopen our church. And again, I don't want to just keep hounding this. We're going to take your questions. That's why we can't stand up and bark and say they're trying to shut our churches down. The governor said churches can meet if they'll meet the social distancing guidelines, but bars can't, movie theaters can't, this can't. So we're not in a situation where the church is being picked on. And I just really don't want us to posture ourselves like that. And I go back and look at what I put in the minister's Facebook page from Doug Clay about how we ought to posture ourselves. Okay, so Craig, what you seeing on the chats, buddy? Anything, questions that we might could answer?
Well, first off, I'll make just to kind of follow up early on. Brother Scotty Lolly mentioned that he went to their health department, and even though they're in an area that has not been a hard hit area, Franklin County is asking them or their recommendation is they stay at the gatherings of 10 or less. So just to kind of add some fuel to what we're saying and how we feel about this, that's what they're saying even right now, post what the governor said as well. There's a couple that have had technical issues early on that asked about DCA church guidelines. Again, I know you mentioned that. I would probably say you're going to be issuing a statement on that they can go to the website and find that out. We can kind of put that in writing.
And the summary of that real quick is keep doing exactly what you've been doing for at least through the 17th of May, okay? The governor's new order, what we are currently operating under as a district continues through, I think we had the 6th of May on there anyway. So this next Sunday, same, and the next 2 Sundays, same. So if you're doing drive-in, you keep doing drive-in. If you're doing just online, you do online. But we're not doing in-person gatherings in DCA churches for at least 2 more weeks, or 3 weeks now, 3 Sundays. And we will be reviewing this on a 2-week basis, and we will give you a 1-week heads up. So you'll get a heads up on Friday, a week and 2 days prior to the Sunday that there may be a change, or either that you're going to stay the same. We'll be updating you in 2-week intervals on the moving forward to DCA. Okay. So that's close. All right, Craig.
Yep. And someone is asking the question, is there a percentage or a break point of congregation that being an elderly that you would consider waiting to relaunch? Would that be phase 3 until they kind of get the clear to get out again?
Well, and there you go. That's a great question, a great observation, Pastor. The elderly are still being asked by the president, by the president and by the governor to not leave their home unless it's an essential thing like a doctor's visit or going to get groceries or medicine. So technically, the elderly are being asked not to do anything, whether it falls in any of these other guidelines or not. That is the recommendation, and that's what's being asked by the vulnerable and elderly community. So if you've got a church that is 50% or greater seniors, then I think you've got a situation there that you're going to look at, needing to help them along for a good while to come. And that there's not a definite percentage of if you're this percentage elderly, that percentage senior. I don't know that there's a percentage there, but I think it's a great point for you as a pastor to consider how many people in my church are actually still under the governor's order, which it's not a quarantine and it's not a whatever that other word is. It's a shelter in place. A stay at home order is what he's asking. Quarantine's more strict, but he say just stay at home. Don't go anywhere where you might get exposed. Because here's the thing, friends. I know there's a lot of speculation about this whole thing, but people are dead today because of COVID-19. Church people are dead today because of COVID-19, and they got infected at a church meeting. So this is not all hypothetical. It's not all hype. It's not all something somebody concocted in their political brain to bring America down. There's some reality here. the Kojic Church, which is our African-American counterpart Pentecostal church. They have had numerous, I think 30-something pastors. We have in the Assemblies of God, I believe the latest number I heard was 14 of our credentialed ministers have died from COVID-19. The Eastern Hispanic District up in New York area and in the Northeast, they have lost numerous ministers and many of their parishioners to this disease. Mark was talking to Ellie. I don't know if you want to throw something in about that, Mark, or not. I don't know how much of that she would want you to share, you feel comfortable sharing, but it's huge numbers. Yeah, it's huge numbers. And so.
But, one of our national leaders is in Springfield now, but came from another district and region. She was a representative of the Eastern Spanish District, which covers, I think it's like 19 states, some huge area. She was in a national meeting the other day with our leaders, and she literally broke down. She's been battling. Both her mother and stepfather have tested positive. He had just had a aorta valve replacement 2 weeks prior to this. Plus then she has worked with pastors over the years, and that district has seen numerous, and I won't give you the number, but numerous pastors, a very large number of pastors and church folks who died that she personally has known and has ministered with and to and for. And it's just overwhelming. I mean, she literally was overwhelmed with the load of this and the stress of this. And she broke down in one of our national meetings. And of course, they stopped and cared for her and had prayer and things. But it is not a light matter. Right. And then we also need to bring this home a little bit. There are things going on in our area right now that people are still being infected with this, and it's now also getting into some larger, more concerning facilities. And so this is not over yet. So whatever anyone does, they need to do it very thoughtfully for the care and concern of others, and not just us getting together again.
I couldn't agree more. There's a question being asked about, are we asking our people to wear masks, not wear masks, or leave it up to the individual? Well, again, you go back to the CDC guidelines or your local. There's some local areas that are asking for masks when you're in public. That's not necessarily a statewide thing. One caution is this: many pediatricians are warning that children should not wear masks unless absolutely necessary. And if they do, they don't wear them for a long period of time, that it is very dangerous for children to wear masks for extended periods of time. So I would certainly look into that very carefully before I said, if you come to church, make sure all your family's got a mask on. Some of the elderly struggle with the mask. It reduces their breathing, reduces their oxygen count in their blood. We've got one individual in our district that his mother died, and she had been out in shopping all afternoon, grocery shopping in Walmart and all, with her mask on. And they believed that the fact that she wore that mask all afternoon, it restricted her oxygen level and caused her to have a massive heart attack and die. So, this whole mask thing is kind of an issue of its own, but it's going to, there again, that's going to have to be based on your local recommendations and what you as a church put in your plan when we do get there.
And Superintendent, if I could add, everyone needs to check with their insurance provider.
Yes.
Insurance is a major issue.
And we did check with Church Mutual, and they have several recommendations on their website that you can go and look at. But the bottom line is you must follow CDC guidelines. So, and local, state, federal, CDC, everybody's guidelines. So one pastor shared with us today that he checked with his insurance company, which was not Church Mutual, but he checked with his insurance company and said, we don't, I'm sure it's somewhere in the fine print, we don't cover anything that's related to a pandemic. So if somebody gets something at your church, you don't have any insurance to cover it. So that's kind of scary. And so there are liability issues. That was asked today on that large conference call. Could a church be held liable? And absolutely it could be if they did not follow proper guidelines and someone could trace their infection back to a gathering at that church and the church didn't do due diligence to prevent that from happening. So a lot of risk involved. Somewhere I know there was a risk before COVID-19. You know, it was a risk to get in your car and drive to church. You could have an automobile accident on the way to church and get killed. We know that, okay? But somewhere we're gonna have to balance that, and it is a tightrope. It is a real tightrope of balancing the safety and security of people, and at the same time making sure that we don't just sit here forever and not start regathering as a church. We've got to start regathering. We know that. So. Yes, someone asked you on the website. Yes, it will be. This whole presentation will be on the website. And yes, in other platforms as well, but it will be out there on our website. And takes a few hours for it to render and produce one this long and big, but it will. Let me, some of the EPs had some good comments today, if any of them want to add anything to this. And then let's just take, I know we're almost at 6 o'clock here. We're going to have to transition out pretty quick, but I want to take any questions that you've got. If you've got a question or a concern, just feel free to ask it. Nobody's going to feel bad at you. This is not personal to me or to our team. We're just trying to help you, okay? I feel that we're not at the level I wish we could be to help you this afternoon, but I think we'll get there. I think give us a few more days. It may be before Sunday even that we get some more stuff, or it may be the first of the week, but I can assure you, Lord, we're watching it 24/7 and we will get it to you just as quick as we can. We'll disseminate it out. So anybody have anything else they want to add, and you'll just have to unmute or wave at us, because again, we can't see you, or either jump in the chat window, one of the two.
Brother Tom, I would just say if they're going to do that, just to help us out, because there's 5 pages of faces on our computer here. If you unmute, if you'll announce your name first so we can hear primarily who that is. If you're on a mobile device and you want to use the chat window, if you're unfamiliar, you have to swipe, I believe, to it's either left or right. You swipe one way or the other, and it takes you into that chat function so that you can see that on a mobile device, and feel free to ask a question in there.
Okay, very good. So anybody have a question and or comment? We will receive any comments, or kind of somebody want to tell us kind of what you're doing. What some of you guys tell us what you're thinking. What plan? How are you putting a plan in place? What are you doing? Share, man. We learn from each other. We want to learn from each other. How are you working on your plan? Not everybody at one time now.
Brother Tommy, Brother Moore.
Yes, sir.
Brother Hagan from
Yes.
South First Assembly. I made a comment earlier. I didn't realize that it showed up from me, so that was my comment about the DC8 pastor and as a former EM manager. It's altogether different, the pandemic, the disease issue, perhaps from a flood or a hurricane or something like that. There's lots of similarities. A response to many disasters works in every other disaster with a few things. And one of the things that you need to be careful when you evacuate is have a plan to get people back into their homes if it's fire, hurricane, or something like that. So having a plan is one of the most important things we can do. I think you made the right decision for DC8 churches, and I share your passion. I need to preach worse than people need to hear me preach, but I'm ready to get back. I'm ready to get back Sunday morning and go, but we need to test that plan too. Some churches, especially DC8, because I'm on a committee with you and others to look at some DC8 issues. Some are not only small in numbers, they're also small in resources. They're small in facilities that the churches or we pastor or they pastor. And it's going to take some time. Right now, with a kind of an older board, hard to function even in good days. I can't call a meeting necessarily. I could call a meeting and we could do the 6-foot thing, but I need to get this to our leadership and things like that. So I congratulate you on this. And I don't know who said I'd rather wait till June. I'd certainly rather wait till the middle or the end of May, June if we have to. But if we go back too quickly and there's a relapse, it's always been harder for me to we're further behind if we have a relapse. And
yes, sir.
Thank you for this leadership.
Well, thank you, Brother Hagan. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. And it's, one thing, the culture in churches is different based on its size and all that. And many of our DCA churches are smaller churches. That's not bad. That's just a reality. And sometimes the culture is a little bit different. And so this could be viewed in one of two ways: the district's being heavy-handed and telling us what we can and can't do, or it's a good thing for you. I hope you feel it this way, Pastor. Thank God I don't have to make that call. The district made it for us, so we just simply going to keep doing what we've been doing for the last few weeks, and you don't have to be the heavy in that. So I hope that it helps you in that respect as well. Absolutely. Other questions or comments?
Brother Tommy, Brother Burka asked, are we expecting a serious wave of mutated COVID when the fall cool weather returns?
Well, I've been in the laboratory today looking at, no, I'm kidding. I'm obviously not a doctor or an epidemiologist, I believe as they're called, but I have been hearing some things about that. I didn't even spend the night at a Motel 6 last night, so I don't even have that on. I hadn't been anywhere. So this is simply just stuff I've heard out there. That is one of the big concerns, is that there will be new waves of things like this to deal with when the weather comes back cool and the regular flu season comes back and everybody gets the first body ache, going to think they've got 19 and here we go again. And I don't know what that looks like, guys and gals. I just don't know. I wish I did. And I think that we've learned so much from all of this. Don't put what you've learned from this too far away. Now, I know all the positive confessionists will criticize that statement. You might have to pull all of this back out again next year in flu season if we have a new outbreak of COVID-19. Don't throw it away. That's why I think continuing your online platform in your church, keep Facebook living, keep YouTubing, keep live streaming, keep doing whatever it is that you do in your services now. Keep that up. Just add the going back piece into it when we're safe to do that, when you plan to do it. Just keep it going. You're no less a pastor if you have fewer people sitting in that congregation when you go back and more watching online. You're still reaching people. I know it's not what we're used to, and I know it's not comfortable to a lot of us, but that's not negative on you. And you're a great leader, you're a great pastor, and you're reaching those people. Plus you're keeping that reach out there to that unreached world that we've been overlooking so much. So keep doing all of that. Then God forbid, and in the name of Jesus, I pray it never happens. But we have a recurrence of this, or a spike again in the fall or during the flu season or whatever. We just simply, we know what to do. And we can do it quicker now. We can do it better now. And hopefully we could stop the spread quicker and be in a smaller window of that until, the vaccine comes out. And then you've got the vaccine fears. And you've got people that says, I won't take the vaccine. And then you've got conspiracy theorists that says the vaccine comes with a monitoring and surveillance chip. And so does it or doesn't it or whatever? I don't know. But guess what? We'll get through it one day at a time. I know I don't want a chip. I'm not going to have a chip. And I probably won't take the vaccine. I've never taken the flu shot. That's not a district recommendation. All right. That's just stubborn Tommy. But anyway, so that is what it is. So other questions, great stuff. Questions, comments. Please ask them if you need to. We will not.
Hey, Pastor.
Yes.
Just to reiterate what you just said, or to reinforce it, what we have decided to do is obviously to stay as is, but we invest a little money into a much nicer camera and some equipment that wasn't very expensive to enhance the audio, because we have found we already had a Facebook presence and now a YouTube channel. And what we found was we actually grew our audience that were not regular church attenders, even across the country for that matter, not many. And so it's something that's obviously here to stay. So we did that in anticipation of knowing this was probably going to go beyond April and into May and possibly June. And we just made that decision to do that. So, but anyway, just something that we've done. You're looking for ideas or suggestions or confirmations, but that's what we've done. And our people are tuning in and engaging, and they're hungry and they want that fellowship, and so they're doing it in a not a traditional way, but it's becoming traditional, I guess, in a way. So, but anyways, that's something we've done.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Tony. That was Tony Tees, Bear Creek, if you want to connect with him on some of that. Someone's asking, Nick Chisler's wanting to know how many of you are doing drive-up services, not drive-through, but drive up or drive in or whatever services. Do you think that they're effective, and are they worth the effort and energy that it takes to do them? Anybody doing some that want to comment on that? I know Adam's done some. I know Colin has done some. I know
Freedom just this
Mike Allen has done some.
Tommy, this is Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Hey, yeah, we just did one last week and it was awesome. People were excited to get out and be a part of it. I did break it up into 35-minute services. We did 3 of them because you get kids in the car because they can't get out and they're there for an hour. Mom and dad are ready to go home. So we tried to make it a neat little service. They were excited. They were just excited to see people from a distance. They stayed in their cars, and it just so happened that the newspaper drove by, did a big story. It made the paper on Monday, so it really turned out pretty cool for us.
Good. But Larry, do you want to share what you shared today about that you were kind of tentatively planning to go back and then?
Yeah, I really wanted to.
I don't want to put you on the spot to do that, but.
I was wanting to go back Mother's Day real bad, and then the governor didn't give us anything, basically, and I thought I could do it based on filling my sanctuary 25%, do 3 services and 100 at a time, and or thereabout, and then I got to thinking about our own county. The numbers have gradually begun going up. And I just, if they were coming down, I might do that. So I decided not to do it. And we'll do, probably on Mother's Day, we'll do another drive-in service because make it a little special, keep it short. The other thing that really impresses on my heart is in the New Testament, there is this big concern for the weak of faith and the weak. And I would hate to have a church service where someone got hurt, when someone got infected. And so I think to err on the side of caution is a good thing for us right now. And the truth is the community is watching us and our care for our people. And I think it's speaking volumes to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think
a lot of people.
Danny Carnley, is that you that I see down there? I know you guys are doing, you're doing a very impressive looking drive-in service. What I've seen of your stage and all that, man, you guys have taken that thing up. I don't know if there's anything you'd share with anybody about drive-in service or not. I got you there. Well, I thought I did. I'm sorry, Danny, I can't hear you. Well, I still can't hear you. Sorry. Well, I can see. If I could read lips, I would translate, but I'm not doing too good a job. I'm sorry. I see you, but I cannot hear you. All right. Well, this is Brother Danny Carnley at Life Out Loud Church, formerly Live Oak outside of Bonifay here. Give him a call or look him up on Facebook or something. He can tell you they're doing a really impressive good job out there with the drive-in. I know. Let's see. Mike Allen, you've been doing drive-in. Where are you, Mike? I saw you earlier. I can't find you. There's so many people. I can't find him to unmute him. But Mike Allen out at Cypress Grove doing a great job with drive-in church. I know Colin Parker and them did. I know one. I don't know how many others they've done. They've done one drive-in. And so if you're going to do drive-in services, we have a full set of recommendations on our website that are a good starting point for you. Just go to our COVID-19 resources and you'll find recommendations for drive-in services. and it's on the website. And let me show you also that resource that I mentioned a while ago. You need this one right here. If I can make it come up right, here we go, right there. That one, it's on our Facebook page. I mean, it's on our website. It's called Phasing into New Normal. We stole it from the, no, we didn't. They sent it to us and told us we could use it. Why reinvent the wheel? This is the Rocky Mountain Network, Rocky Mountain District, and it's some just excellent stuff, excellent stuff. They've got some really great people on their team, and this is kind of a staged and phased relaunch of your church. Brother Mark made a really great statement the other day. Probably the best thing to relaunch first might not even be your Sunday morning service. What if it is small groups first? What if you relaunched a women's prayer group? What if you relaunched a young adult Bible study? Or what if you relaunched, and one thing, let me say this, if I was going to start back, or when I started back, why not consider offering a service for your seniors that might be like on Tuesday morning, and they could come, do social distancing, slant the service toward them, some stuff they might enjoy and like to do, and they wouldn't have to worry with interacting with people that have been out there in, you know, working in healthcare or whatever it might be that they might be most scared to do. You know, obviously not long term, but just an option. I mean, what else are they going to do on Tuesday morning? They don't have anywhere else to go. Why don't they come to church on Tuesday morning instead of Sunday morning? I'm talking about when we relaunch, but on this resource right here, you go down to this last 10th page, and right there, that number 1 congregational COVID-19 survey template that will drop into SurveyMonkey. If you're familiar with that, where they come up with all these names I'll never know. But anyway, and you can use that to survey your church and to talk about.
Tommy, I got an idea that guys
Larry.
might want to do.
Uh-huh.
For Mother's Day. I think I'm going to do I know I'm going to do a family communion that evening. And I think when we did communion at Easter, it was off the chain. People loved it. And I'm going to do it again on Mother's Day that evening. I'm going to rally the families together to have communion with them.
That'll be great. Very good. All right. So yes, Sister Jessica mentioned she's a smaller church, so she's going to take carnation gifts to each of her church mothers on Mother's Day and make a, you know, personal, as close as you can get kind of contact. There's a lot of different things you can do like that. I think that would really be great and phenomenal. You're a creative crew. We're going to get through this. The Holy Ghost is creative. He's going to help us. I believe that with all my heart. 2 quick things. I think Craig's got a slide that if he can share screens with those 2 slides I sent him. If not, I got them somewhere. He's juggling over there. But
hey, Tom.
Yes, Levon.
Hey, Levon from Evangel. One of the things that we're looking at doing for Mother's Day, just a thought. We did just a live worship set last night from our house. We brought a couple of the band members over. A lot of response off that. People are, you know, they're hearing our messages, but the worship is something that they're really missing. So for Mother's Day, we're looking at doing an outdoor worship, like a drive-in, but then also have some places that are boxed off. If people want to bring, you know, a chair or something, we will escort them. We've thought it through where they'll be distanced. They'll come in an orderly fashion, leave in an orderly fashion and stuff like that, but do it outside, out there, because people are, what we're seeing is they're getting a lot of the word and everything, but the worship, when we saw that last night, it was probably one of the largest things that we've done. So for Mother's Day, we're doing like a 5 o'clock that evening, just a worship celebration for mothers. And so they're just going to come out and be the band out there doing that. So just another thought.
Sure.
In that we're seeing the worship part of it be a big, big aspect, because again, we're getting a lot of word, but people really love coming together for worship.
That's great. Pastor Pineapple, tell us, are there more pineapples coming Saturday? That's Levon.
Yes.
Pastor
Yes,
Pineapple.
there is. We have 2 semis. I have a semi coming in at 9 o'clock and a semi coming in at 10 o'clock. So we will have, I think it's 8,000 pineapples. So if anybody wants to shoot me a message or something like that, we'll be glad to connect with you. And they're great pineapples, great fresh pineapples. And we were able to get a semi truck out this week through the area.
All right. So very good. If you're in the Mariana area and you want to benefit from the Pineapple Express, it's coming back through again on Saturday. So that's phenomenal. And here I am. I hadn't had a pineapple yet. And believe you me, I have been raising the dust about it too. I will get me some pineapples Saturday. I've been threatened that they're going to bring a whole pallet and set it in my front door. So I'm not going to talk too much, but I'm going to get me a few pineapples. But anyway, so that's great. Very good. Well, listen, a couple of quick things. Tonight at 7:14, here in just a little bit, we're going to have our 30th night of 7:14 prayer on the district Facebook page. So join us there. Our whole lead team will be there, and we're going to be praying over 5 specific prayer focuses tonight. It's going to be a 1-hour event. Join us there. It's going to be great. The other thing that we wanted to mention to you is another great event we're so excited about. And that is that on the 3 nights that we would have been in district council, that will be this coming Sunday night, May the 3rd, Monday night, May the 4th, and Tuesday night, May the 5th. We are going to do an event it'll be on our website, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. It'll go on all the platforms at one time. And we're calling it Come Together. And what we're going to do with that Come Together services is on Sunday night, Donna Barrett was supposed to be our speaker at district council. So she has sent a video sharing a word with us, an encouraging word, and preaching a short message to us. And then on Monday night, Beth Grant was supposed to be our speaker. So she has sent a video of her speaking and preaching and encouraging us a little bit, her and David, I think David's going to be on there with her, and they're going to address us on the Monday night. And then Tuesday night, I would normally preach the ordination service, but I'm preaching a different message, not ordination message, but I'm preaching another message on certain things in uncertain times, and just a message to the district. So every night, there'll be different members of the district team that bring you up to date departmentally on some things that are going on across the district. And there will be worship from churches across the district that have the, I don't know how to say it any other way, but the higher quality recording equipment and can record their worship. And if you happen to have that and you have some really good footage of a couple of worship numbers, I could still use a few. So let me know, and we would be glad to get those woven in if they haven't already got everything completely lined out. But we got some great worship, some really awesome worship that'll be in there. Just be like a whole service. It starts out with a welcome, goes into some worship, some announcements and updates, a little more worship, and the word, some updates on different ministries, and then we close with a season of prayer at the end of each one. So we're going to do those. 7:14's worked so good. We're going to do that at 7:14 Central Time, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday night, 1-hour events or near an hour. Some of them may be a little shorter than that, but near an hour every night. And we just want you to share that with your church people. Put it out there on your Facebook pages. It's all over all of ours. You can find this graphic. Throw it out there. Encourage your people to join us. And let's do something kind of district-wide. I think it could be really phenomenal. So just a little something different that'll encourage us and help us in that respect. Amen. All right. Is there anything else that any questions, or did I miss anything? I don't want to miss anything.
Hey, Brother Tommy?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
got my microphone working.
You're
Danny
working,
Kerner.
Brother Danny. Good. Tell us, Brother Danny, kind of how your drive-ins are going.
Well, they've been going great. We decided to do them at night and take a little bit of lights out there and stuff. Just kind of move the church outside is what we did. And it's been really fun. We've been real careful with safety and telling people to stay in their cars. But we have decided we're going to, Friday night, we got our CVLI license. And we're going to be showing a movie Friday night. So The Overcomers, and just doing all we can to get people excited and stay connected.
Good job, my friend. That's great. So there you go. It's a great idea. Movie night, drive-in movie night, some things you could provide for your church and community. Just keep them in their cars and send them on their way. And however you can make that happen. A lot of challenges, a lot of challenges. Well, listen, brothers and sisters, we love you. And if you just need a good dose of medicine, laughter doeth good like a medicine, at 6:30, Greasy Reese and the Floppy-Eared Three are going live in our dining room. That's what if you saw me laughing a while ago, I wasn't laughing at any of you. They're standing at the French doors giving me a little preview, and they're wonderful. If you've never seen Greasy Reese and the Floppy-Eared Three, you don't know what you've missed. This is the hillbilly show that brought Reese out of the kinks from being a quiet, introverted individual to becoming the great woman of God and preacher that she is. She started in costume as Greasy Reese. That's the only way she'd get up and talk in front of people. Well, 30-something years later, she's dug it out, and they've done it for years. It's so funny. You'll love it. So she's going live at 6:30, and then that'll be over around 7, and then 7:14 prayer tonight. Okay, so it's going to be a full, and that is on Reese's Facebook page. That's RESEMOORE, RESEMOORE, Reese Moore on Facebook. So just join her there. And I'll share the link to mine, and we'll make sure that you get on, okay? All right. God bless you. We love you. Let me pray over you before you go, okay? Jesus, we love you. Thank you for this time together. These brothers and sisters are needing refreshing, Lord. Just refresh them. Help them. This is a load. It's heavy. And, Lord, I just pray that you would help them to not get burned out, Lord, but to continue to serve well. Refresh them by the Holy Ghost, and we'll thank you for it. Give us leadership and guidance. Meet us when we're able to gather together or when we gather online. Let your presence be there with us, God. Give us a great night in you, in Jesus' name. Amen. One thing before we close, I found a resource on dealing with fatigue, ministry fatigue, particularly in crisis. And I'd like to do one of these next week, one evening. We may do it according to what else we have to tell you next week. But I'd like to take about 45 minutes with all of you and just get you back on a call like this and walk you through an assessment of your own personal health, not necessarily just physical health, but your emotional health, your spiritual health. How are you dealing with all this pressure? How are you dealing with all this stress? Where are you? What indicators? We don't need you breaking down on us. We don't need you blowing up on us. We need you to stay steady. And I think if we walk through it, it's a great resource I just got through our superintendent's group. And I'd like to walk you through it next week sometime. Let's just do an assessment of ourselves and say, okay, Lord, where do I need to really let you help me and not let the devil get a foothold in our lives during this time? It's very important that we stay strong as leaders. Amen. All right. God bless you. We love you. Have a great night. See you soon.